So I'm gonna not go only 8 minutes. I don't care if we stay a little bit into lunch if you guys don't care either.
Okay, no, I don't care.
Okay.
Alright, so this is Uncle Jed's Barbershop by Margaree King Mitchell, illustrated by James Ransom. To Kevin, who always believed in my dreams, and then to Gloria and Jerry Pinky, thanks. Sorry, the authors, thanks, and the illustrators. Alright. Jebediah Johnson was my granddaddy's brother. Everybody has their favorite relative. Well, Uncle Jebediah was mine. He used to come by our house every Wednesday night with his clippers. He was the only black barber in the county. Dad said that before Uncle Jed started cutting hair, he and Granddaddy used to have to go 30 miles to get a haircut. After Uncle Jed cut my daddy's hair, he lathered a short brush with soap and spread it over my daddy's face and shaved him. Then he started over on my granddaddy. I always asked Uncle Jed to cut my hair, but Mama wouldn't let him, so he would run the clippers on the back of my neck and just pretend to cut my hair. He even spread lotion on my neck. I would smell wonderful all day. When he was done, he would pick me up and sit me in his lap and tell me about the barbershop he was going to open one day and about all the fancy equipment that would be in it. The sinks would be so shiny they sparkled, the floors so clean you could see yourself. He was going to have 4 barber chairs, and outside was going to be a big, tall, red and white barber pole. He told me he was saving up for it. He had been saying the same things for years. Nobody believed him. People didn't have dreams like that in those days. We lived in the South. Most people were poor. My daddy owned a few acres of land, and so did a few others, but most people were sharecroppers. That meant they lived in a shack and worked somebody else's land in exchange for a share of the crop. When I was 5 years old, I got sick. This particular morning, I didn't come into the kitchen while Mama was fixing breakfast. Mama and Daddy couldn't wake me up. My nightgown and the bedclothes were all wet where I had sweated. Mama wrapped me in a blanket while Daddy went outside and hitched the horse to the wagon. We had to travel about 20 miles into town to the hospital. It was midday when we got there. We had to go to the colored waiting room. In those days, they kept blacks and whites separate. There were separate public restrooms, separate water fountains, separate schools. It was called segregation. So in the hospital, we had to go to the colored waiting room. All right, so this page actually has a lot of information in there. Can you guys tell me how you think that, based on what we've read so far, is different from how life is today? Anything. What might you think stands out as huge differences from Sarah Jean's time and our time?
Well, black people can use the same things now that white people can.
Right, definitely.
I don't ride on a horse anymore. We don't.
Yeah, it was right there. It said we had to travel about 20 miles into town to the hospital.
Yeah.
I'm sure 20 miles is different from a horse and then a car.
It's not long.
All right. Even though I was unconscious, the doctors wouldn't look at me until they had finished with all the white patients. When the doctors did examine me, they told my daddy that I need an operation and that it would cost $300. $300 was a lot of money in those days. My daddy didn't have that kind of money, and the doctors wouldn't do the operation until they had the money. So how do you think her family might feel knowing that their daughter is sick and that she really needs this operation? It's going to cost so much. What thoughts do you think might be running through their heads?
They're sad.
Maybe they're scared.
They're scared. Can you build on that? Why would they be scared?
Well, because if they can't get the money, and it's probably harder for them to get money when they don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe she might die.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What would you think your parents would think if you were sick? What do you think? They don't want her to die. So what do you? What else?
Mad at the white people.
Good. My mama. Oh, did I? No. My mama bundled me back up in the blanket and they took me home. Mama held me in her arms all night. She kept me alive until Daddy found Uncle Jed. He found him early the next morning in the next county on his way to cut somebody's hair. Daddy told him about me. Uncle Jed leaned on his bent cane and stared straight ahead. He told Daddy that the money didn't matter. He couldn't let anything happen to his Sarah Jean. Well, I had the operation. For a long time after that, Uncle Jed came by the house every day to see how I was doing. I know that $300 delayed him from opening the barbershop. Uncle Jed came awfully close to opening his shop a few years later after my operation. It saved enough money to buy the land and build the building, but he still needed money for the equipment. Anyway, Uncle Jed had come by the house. We had just finished supper when there was a knock on the door. It was Mr. Ernest Walters, a friend of Uncle Jed's. He had come by to tell Uncle Jed about the bank failing. That was where Mr. Walters and Uncle Jed had their money. Uncle Jed had over $3,000 in the bank and it was gone. Uncle Jed just stood there a long time before he said anything. Then he told Mr. Walters that even though he was disappointed, he would just have to start all over again. Talk about some hard times. That was the beginning of the Great Depression. Nobody had much money. So during this sentence right here, guys, Uncle Jed just stood there a long time before he said anything. Then he told Mr. Walters that even though he was disappointed, he would just have to start all over again. What do you think he felt after saving up and then being presented with all these barriers to where he couldn't pursue his dream? What do you think he might be feeling? And what do you think caused him to say he would just have to start all over again?
Well, he doesn't really have a choice, I guess. He either has to like give up or start all over again.
I think that he was really calm. I would be angry.
Yeah, you would be angry, wouldn't you? Would you want to give up, or do you think you would pursue your dreams or come up with another?
I would try to get more money and maybe go back to the bank, but I would, if they said no, I don't have your money, I would have to start all over, but I don't know if I would go for my dreams again.
Do you think he'll ever get his barbershop? Just your opinion? Based on what we've read.
No.
Yes.
You think so? Why do you think so, Jessica?
Because he's a hard worker and he's going to start all over again.
Why do you think he might not, Hallie?
Well, because I know about the Great Depression and it just got a lot worse after the beginning of it.
Alright, let's find out. We are almost to the end. But Uncle Jed kept going around to his customers cutting their hair even though they couldn't pay him. His customers shared with him whatever they had, a hot meal, fresh eggs, vegetables from the garden, and when they were able to pay again, they did. And Uncle Jed started saving all over again. Old Uncle Jed finally got his barbershop. He opened it on his 79th birthday. It had everything just like he said it would. Big comfortable chairs, 4 cutting stations, you name it. The floors were so clean they sparkled. On opening day, people came from all over the county. They were all Uncle Jed's customers. He had walked to see them for so many years. That day, they all came to him. I believe he cut hair all night and all the next day, and the next night, and the day after that. That man was so glad to have the shop, he didn't need any sleep. Of course, I was there too. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. When I sat in one of the big barber chairs, Uncle Jed patted the back of my neck with the lotion like he always did. Then he twirled me around and round in the barber chair. Uncle Jed died not long after that, and I think he died a happy man. You see, he made his dream come true, even when nobody else believed in it. He taught me to dream too. That's the end. All right, so throughout the book, we saw a lot of really nice painted pictures and we read a lot of text. Can you tell me just throughout the whole book where some clues were that told you about the time and place that this was happening? Like, Hallie, you referenced the Great Depression, and then there was references to segregation. What else did you notice? Like, what did the author include to have students think about that? Because she didn't completely talk about it and focus on it. Can you think of any pages?
Well, you only see black people throughout the whole book.
Right.
Which makes me think that they don't live near each other, like spend time with white people.
They had horses.
What about on this page? What do you see in the illustrations?
A lot of black people in one place.
There's a sign that points to colored only, white only.
Okay. And then, what do you think? Throughout this book, it's about Uncle Jed trying to pursue his dream to open the barbershop. And we've been talking a lot about wants and needs in class lately and talking about philanthropy and what our wants and needs are and what really counts as a want or a need. Thinking about Uncle Jed, what do you think he would consider to be a want and what would he consider to be a need?
He wants to help people. He wants to cut their hair.
Right.
He wants to open his own barbershop.
On this page right here, it says, Uncle Jed leaned on his bent cane and stared straight ahead. He told Daddy that the money didn't matter. He couldn't let anything happen to his Sarah Jean. Using that phrase, what does that tell you about what he considers to be a want, what he considers to be a need?
He needs everyone to be healthy and he just wants to save up his money.
Can you build on Jessica's thoughts, Hallie?
Yeah, he feels the need to protect his niece and make sure that she's okay more than anything else.
Right, so you could say that his barbershop is kind of like a want, but his need for family, that's a need, right? So how can you apply that to your lives? What's something you want and what's something you need? Just an example.
I want a cool new Barbie, but I need my food every day.
What's your example?
I want to stay up and party, but I need my sleep.
Okay.
All right, and our last question. Thinking about the whole book, what were components that made their community strong in the book? And a great look at that is when he's opening his barbershop.
Yeah.
What contributed to
Everyone
this picture?
came. Everyone came.
All right, and what about on this page? Uncle Jed kept going around to his customers, cutting their hair, even though they couldn't pay him. His customers shared with him whatever they had, a hot meal, fresh eggs, vegetables from the garden, and when they were able to pay again, they did. What does that?
It shows Uncle Jed being really nice.
And that they all help each other out where and when they can.
Right, so those are strong components to a community. What components could we, using this book as an example, use to make our classroom community strong?
We could help other people.
What do you think, Jessica?
We could start cutting hair.
How do you think we could help people? I mean, not everybody always tells us if they need help. What else do you think we can do to help?
We could just be generous with our things
Mm-hmm.
and try to share.
When people need things.
Good discussion.